World War II marked an unforgettable period in history and was a time when military technology was pushed to its limits. The weapons used during this period became powerful tools that reflected the intensity and complexity of the war. The bloody conflicts and tactical shifts led to an incredible acceleration of weapons development in the military world. Ready for a quick look at the most popular weapons used in World War II? If you're ready with your coffee and in front of your screens, here we go. The AVS-36 was a Soviet automatic rifle that entered service in the early years of World War II. It was one of the first selective fire infantry rifles to be officially accepted for military service. It was the first of the weapons capable of both single and fully automatic fire. The Modello 38 or Model 38 and its derivatives were a series of official submachine guns of the Royal Italian Army, introduced in 1938 and used during the Second World War. The Beretta Model 38 was first issued to Italian police units stationed in Africa. The Italian army was impressed and decided to adopt a version for use by elite troops and military police, but requested a modified version without a bayonet and with a different recoil compensator. The MAB-38 was widely used and saw service on all fronts. The rifles were also used by the German, Romanian, and Argentinian armies of the time. The Boys anti-tank rifle was a British anti-tank rifle used during the Second World War. It was often referred to as the elephant gun by its users due to its large size and large 14 mph bore. While adequate against light tanks and tankets early in the war, the Boys was ineffective against heavier armor and was phased out by mid-war in favor of the Piat hollow charge rifle. The name Bren is derived from the city of Brno in Czechoslovakia, where the ZBVZs 26 was designed in Brno, Czechoslovakia, and Enfield, the site of the British Royal Small Arms Factory. It is a joint Czechoslovak-British machine gun. It entered service in 1938 and was decommissioned in 1958. A similar version, the L4, is still in service in the United Kingdom. The Bren is a light weapon with a range of 550 meters. The M1919 Browning is a .30 caliber medium machine gun that was widely used throughout the 20th century, especially during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. The M1919 saw service as a light infantry, coaxial, mounted, aircraft, and anti-aircraft machine gun by the United States and many other countries. The M1919 was an air-cooled development of the John M. Browning-designed water-cooled M1917, the standard U.S. machine gun of World War I. The FG-42 is a selective-fire automatic rifle produced in Nazi Germany during World War II. The weapon was developed in 1942 specifically for the paratroopers and was used in very limited numbers until the end of the war. The weapon was designed specifically for the infantry, whose need for new weapons became apparent after the Battle of Crete. This weapon is a lightened version of the MG-42 for paratroopers. The Flammenwerfer 35 was a flamethrower used by Nazi Germany during World War II. This weapon was capable of spraying flames 30 meters away using compressed nitrogen. Although German soldiers using this weapon remained vulnerable to attack, they were the enemy soldier's nightmare. A soldier killed by this weapon had no choice but to burn to death. For all its advantages, the Flammenwerfer 35 was effective against soldiers in bunkers and trenches, but the weapon had the notorious side effect of knocking out careless users, and its durability allowed only 10-second bursts, with no mercy shown to any captured flamethrower. The Gewehr 41 is a semi-automatic rifle. It was produced by Nazi Germany during the Second World War. It is the first model of the rifle 43. It has features like the Tokarev SVT-40, a Soviet weapon. The German army needed semi-automatic rifles for the war, mostly Gewehr 41. This rifle became the most popular weapon of the German army. It was especially used on the Eastern Front. At the beginning of World War II, the Germans actually had the semi-automatic Gewehr 41 rifle. However, the development of new and more effective semi-automatic weapons by the Americans with the M1 Garand and the Russians with the SVT-40 with a gas-operated bolt system forced the Germans to improve the G41. As a result, German arms manufacturer Walter Arms introduced the Gewehr 43 in 1943. The Gewehr 43 was an improved and redesigned version of the Gewehr 41. Its production was completely discontinued after World War II. The Kar 98 Kurz is a rifle first produced in 1935 by the Nazi German Armed Forces Wehrmacht under contract to the German Mauser factory. The Kar 98K bolt-action rifle is a conversion of the long-barreled Gewehr 98 rifles, defined as infantry rifles, into a standard infantry rifle by shortening the barrel length without changing the mechanism for easier maneuvering in enclosed spaces, such as inside vehicles. The Lahti L35 is a Finnish semi-automatic pistol. It was designed by Aimo Lahti and used by the Finnish Army during the Winter War and the Continuation War. The Lahti was a very high-quality pistol and was resistant to cold conditions or contamination. The use of a cocking accelerator, a rare feature in a pistol, helped make the Lahti a reliable pistol. The L35 was manufactured under license in Sweden between 1940 and 1946 under the Husqvarna name. The Lee Enfield is a rifle manufactured in Great Britain. It entered service in 1907 and has been used in many wars, including World War I and World War II, and is currently being used by the Afghan Mujahideen. It can hold 10 bullets at a time. It was first designed in 1895 by James Paris Lee. Its main users were the British Commonwealth. The effective range is 500 meters, and the sniper rifle version has a range of 1 kilometer. Since these special rifles were not given a name, sources usually refer to them as Enforcer. The Lewis gun is a World War I-era submachine gun. Designed specifically in the United States, but not adopted there, the design was finalized and mass-produced in the United Kingdom and was widely used by British Empire troops during the war. It had a distinctive barrel cooling shroud and a top-mounted pan magazine. The Lewis remained in service until the end of the Korean War and was widely used as an aircraft machine gun during both world wars, almost always with the cooling shroud removed as the airflow provided sufficient cooling during flight. The Luger P08, popularly known as the Luger, is a semi-automatic self-loading pistol patented by Georg Luger in 1898 and manufactured by the German arms manufacturer Deutsche Waffen- und Munitionsfabriken from 1900. In the first half of the 20th century, it became a popular weapon for both civilians and military personnel. It was used not only by German officers, but also by Soviet, British, American, Turkish, and French officers. The M1 Carbine is a lightweight semi-automatic carbine used by the US Army as a primary infantry weapon in World War II and the Korean War. Many different types were produced. It is widely used by the US Army and the armies and paramilitary forces of other countries. Various versions are also popular with civilians. The versions of the weapon that can fire fully automatically are called the M2 carbine, while the version of the M2 with an infrared sight system is called the M3 carbine. The M1 Garand is a semi-automatic American infantry rifle from World War II. Using .30 caliber bullets, it officially replaced the Springfield M1903 bolt-action rifle, the standard service rifle of the United States Army in 1936. The M14, an improved version of the M1, is still in use by the US Army. The use of the M1, which was widespread until 1963, began to decline by 1966. The M1 was used mainly during World War II and the Korean War, with some involvement in the Vietnam War. Most M1 rifles have served American soldiers, some have been given to other countries. The Browning automatic rifle, also known as the BR, is a family of rifles that served in the automatic rifle submachine gun class in US troops in World War II. It is a heavy rifle and takes few bullets, but it is one of the rifles that played an active role in the war. Its most characteristic feature is its rapid fire. However, no matter how experienced the user is, the 20-shot capacity is not enough for the weapon. The reason for carrying so few rounds is the weight of the weapon. The designers kept the magazine capacity low in order not to make the heavy weapon even heavier. Although the older models had a bipod, which is a rifle stand that can be placed on the ground, in World War II, infantrymen had to use it by carrying it in their hands like other rifles. The Mauser C96 is a semi-automatic pistol produced by the German arms manufacturer Mauser between 1896 and 1937. Unlicensed copies were produced by China and Spain in the first half of the 20th century. The main features that distinguish the Mauser C96 from other pistols are that the magazine is fixed in front of the trigger, the barrel is longer than other pistols, and a stock can be attached to the rear. The ability to attach a stock, the long barrel, and the high bullet exit velocity are the features that make the Mauser C96 superior to other pistols of the time. Mauser alone produced about 1 million Mauser C96 pistols. Although large numbers were also produced in Spain and China, it is not known how many were produced in total due to poor production records. The Mauser HSC is a 7.65 mm pistol introduced in Nazi Germany during World War II and produced until 1977. HSC stood for Hans Selbstspanner Pistole, the third and final C design. Production continued during the French occupation in 1945 to 1946, and by Mauser from 1968 to 1977. It has a semi-open hammer, double-action trigger, single-column magazine, and a spring that wraps around the barrel. The Mauser HSC was originally designed as a commercial pistol. It competed with the contemporary German Walther PPK and Sauer 38H for police and military use. It was first supplied to the Navy and was soon used by the Army and police. HSC pistols used by the Luftwaffe or Waffen-SS were obtained from Army and police stocks. The Maxim gun is a recoil-operated machine gun invented by Hiram Stevens Maxim in 1884. It was the world's first fully automatic machine gun. The Maxim gun has been called the weapon most associated with imperial conquest by historian Martin Gilbert and was used extensively by colonial powers during the scramble for Africa. Later, Maxim rifles were widely used by various armies during the Russo-Japanese War, World Wars I and II, and in contemporary conflicts. The Maxim weapon was highly influential in the development of machine guns and has numerous variants and derivatives. The MG45 was a machine gun developed by the Wehrmacht during World War II, but not used in significant numbers. In 1944, Nazi Germany's material shortages led to the development of a newer, material-saving simplified version of the MG42, the MG45. Because the MG45 and MG42 have different operating mechanisms, the MG45 is considered a different type of weapon than the MG42. The Mosin-Nagant is a Russian-made handheld infantry rifle. The rifle was designed in 1891 by Russian Captain Sergei Mosin and the Belgian company Nagant, and entered service that year. It was produced until 1965 and remained in service until 1998. It remained in service during the Russo-Japanese War, the Korean War, World War I, and World War II. This rifle, like many other single-shot rifles, is loaded with 5 rounds in the stock. It has also gained a reputation for being more comfortable to use. This rifle is also a sniper rifle. The famous Russian sniper Vasily Zaitsev also used this rifle. In addition, this rifle was so valuable to the Russians that they did not have a copy made in China, but exported it. This valuable rifle was among the rifles used by the Turkish army in World War I and the Turkish War of Independence, and it was used in an army for 107 years. It is now only used by collectors. This valuable rifle, which is not a copy, has been produced in some countries under the Mosin-Nagant license, but under a different name. The MP-18 is a submachine gun made by Theodore Bergman. It was also the first submachine gun in history. It was first used in World War I by the Stoßtrupps in trench warfare. Although it was discontinued in 1920, it became the basis for the design of all submachine guns produced until the 1960s. The MP-18 impressed Allied soldiers with its firepower and accuracy. The Treaty of Versailles forbade the Germans to design, manufacture, and use the MP-18 and similar weapons. During World War II, it was reintroduced by Nazi Germany and used by the German army. In early 1945, it was a German submachine gun produced towards the end of World War II. Also known as the Volksmaschinenpistole, the weapon was based on the Sten MK2 submachine gun, except for the vertical magazine. Some had additional pistol grips. The MP-3008 was designed as an emergency measure at a time when Germany was on the verge of collapse. Lacking raw materials, the Germans tried to produce a radically cheaper alternative to their standard submachine gun, the MP-40. The MP-34 is a submachine gun manufactured by Waffenfabrik Steyr as the Steyr Solothurn S1100 and used by the Austrian Army and Austrian Gendarmerie during World War II and later by the German Army and Waffen-SS units. An extremely well-made weapon, it was used by some armed forces until the 1970s. The MP-34 was based on a design for the MP-19 by the Dusseldorf-based company Rheinmetall. The weapon is similar in design to the MP-18 Bergmann, which entered service toward the end of World War I. To circumvent the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which prevented Germany from exporting arms and ammunition, Rheinmetall acquired the Swiss company Waffenfabrik Solothurn in 1929 and began secretly producing a prototype. This model, which would evolve into the MP-34, was initially designated S1100 in accordance with the company's standard naming convention. The MP-35 is a fully automatic weapon produced and used by Nazi Germany. It was used by the German army and police. It was designed by Emil Bergmann and manufactured by the Bergmann Arms Factory. The MP-32, the predecessor of the MP-35, was produced by the Schultz and Larsen factory in Denmark. About 2,000 were also produced and sold by Karl Walther under the name BMP-34. This rifle was a simple version of the MP-35. With the outbreak of World War II, the production of this weapon was accelerated. About 40,000 were produced during the Second World War. Almost all of them were given to the Waffen-SS. The production of the weapon ended with the end of the Second World War. Before World War II, the weapon was used by the German police. During World War II, it was used by the Wehrmacht and Waffen-SS units of the German army. It was also exported to Bolivia, Ethiopia, Spain, and Sweden under the designation M39. The MP is a German submachine gun. It was widely used by Germany and other Axis powers in World War II. It was designed by Heinrich Vollmer in 1938, inspired by its predecessor, the MP-38. It was widely used by infantry, paratroopers, and platoon and squad leaders on both the Western and Eastern fronts. Its advanced and modern features made it a favorite and popular weapon among soldiers from countries all over the world after the war. It was named by the Allies after German weapons designer Hugo Schmeisser, although he had nothing to do with its design or manufacture. Approximately 1 million MP-40s were produced by Irma from 1940 to 1945. The Owen is an Australian submachine gun. Designed by Evelyn Owen in 1939, it was Australia's main service submachine gun in World War II and was used by the Australian Army from 1943 until the mid-1960s. The Projector Infantry Anti-Tank is a portable anti-tank weapon built in the United Kingdom. The weapon was developed in 1942 during World War II, when the British Army needed a more powerful anti-tank weapon. The PIAT was based on an air mortar system that fired a 1.1 kilograms bomb using a cartridge in the tail of the projectile. The PIAT had many advantages over other infantry anti-tank weapons of the time and was distributed to the United Kingdom as well as Commonwealth and other allied nations. The PPD-40 is a Soviet submachine gun. It was designed by Vasily Degtyarev in 1934 and featured a traditional wooden stock and a multi-shot option. It was mainly used during World War II and was replaced by the PPS-41. The PPS-43 submachine gun was first designed in 1942 by a weapons designer named Alexei Sudayev as an alternative to the PPS-41 submachine gun, which was the most widely used submachine gun in the Red Army during World War II. It was not until 1943 that the weapon entered the Red Army's inventory. Since the recoil rate of this rifle was lower than that of the PPS-41, it became a preferred rifle. In addition to Soviet troops, Polish troops also used these rifles. After World War II, it was used in the Chinese Civil War, after which the Soviet Union marketed these weapons to North Korea and China, which it had supported in the Korean War. These two countries also kept PPS-43S in their arsenals throughout the Korean War. After the war, the People's Republic of China produced a PPS-43-like rifle called the Type 54. North Vietnam and the Viet Cong also used this rifle during the Vietnam War. The PPS-41 was one of the most widely produced Russian weapons during World War II. Designed by Georgy Shpagin, it could be produced in less time and at a lower cost than the PPD-40. The PPS-41 used a simple recoil mechanism. It had a 71-round drum and a 35-round magazine. Two types of magazines could be used: box magazines and round magazines. After World War II, it was used by North Korea and China in the Korean War. It was also used in the Chinese Civil War and was widely used by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops in the Vietnam War. PPS-41 rifles have been used to a lesser extent by American troops in the Iraq War. The Sauer 38H, or usually just H, was a small semi-automatic pistol produced by J.P. Sauer and Son in Nazi Germany from 1938 until just after the end of World War II. The H in the model number stands for Hahn, referring to the internal hammer of the firing mechanism. The SG-43 Goryunov was a Soviet medium machine gun introduced during World War II. It was introduced in 1943 to replace the older M1910 Maxim machine guns. It was mounted on wheeled mounts, tripods, and armored vehicles. The SKS is a Soviet-made semi-automatic rifle model. It was designed by Sergei Simonov in 1943. The weapon was replaced by the AK-47 in frontline service in the 1950s and was used in secondary service for some time. Today, it is used as a ceremonial rifle. The SKS was also exported to many Eastern Bloc countries and was produced in China, East Germany, Yugoslavia, and North Korea. The rifle is also highly sought after in the civilian hunting and target rifle market in many countries today. The M1903 Springfield is a bolt-fed infantry rifle manufactured in the United States. It remained in use until the middle of the 20th century. It was produced in 1903 for the United States Regular Army. It entered service again during World War I. Although it was replaced by the semi-automatic M1 Garand in 1936, it continued to be used as a sniper rifle in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. The Sten is a British submachine gun. Produced in 1940 in response to a shortage of weapons in the United Kingdom, it is a 9mm caliber, simple in design, easy to manufacture, and highly reliable. It is named after the initials of the designer's surnames and the place where it was manufactured. In the first phase, 100,000 were produced, providing British soldiers with a lightweight, space-saving, easily repaired and maintained weapon. The Sten is a short-range, highly maneuverable weapon with a high rate of fire and acceptable damage output. However, once it falls to the ground, the 32 bullets inside it scatter. Being a pistol, it is limited in its ability to fire fully automatically. In World War II, it was very popular with all British soldiers due to its lightweight, small footprint, ease of repair and cleaning. In the Korean War, it was also used by the United Kingdom in the ranks of the United Nations. In the Vietnam War, it was used by the Australian Army. Apart from these wars, it was also used in other wars and rebellions. It was used by the Turkish Armed Forces in the Korean War and the Cyprus Operation from 1950 to 1980. The Sterling submachine gun is a British submachine gun. It was tested by the British Army in 1944 to 1945, but did not replace the Sten until 1953. A successful and reliable design, the Sterling remained standard issue in the British Army until 1994, when it was replaced by the L85A1, a bullpup assault rifle. The STG-44 was developed by Nazi Germany during World War II. It is the world's first modern assault rifle, known by the abbreviation 44 inches, because the last version, the MP-44, was designed in 1944. There are versions of the STG-44, such as the MP-43 and MP-44. These versions are identical to the original STG-44 with only minor modifications. It actually became fully operational in 1943, but has been in service since 1942 when it was first produced. The weapon was intended to replace Nazi Germany's World War II weapons, such as the MP-40 and Kar-98K, but production was limited due to material shortages and constant Allied bombing. The famous Soviet AK-47 was inspired by this weapon. The Suomi KP-31 is a Finnish submachine gun. The weapon was based on the M22 prototype introduced in 1925 and the KP-26 production model, and was commonly known as the Suomi KP. The Suomi KP-31 is generally regarded as one of the most successful submachine guns of World War II. It also developed a 71-round drum magazine that was later copied for the Soviet PPD-40 and PPD-41 submachine guns. The Suomi's accuracy was superior to that of the mass-produced PPS-41, thanks in part to a significantly longer barrel. The main disadvantage of the weapon was its high production cost. Used mainly by gangsters and police officers in the 1920s and 30s, the Thompson became famous as a rifle used by soldiers of the United States and the United Kingdom in World War II. It gained its notoriety mainly during the Prohibition period in the USA. During this period, it was often used by both gangsters and law enforcement officers at the same time. Two of its nicknames among gangsters were the Chicago Piano and the Chicago Typewriter because of the sound it made when fired. During World War II, the weapon was also nicknamed Tommy, Trench Sweeper, and Chopper. After World War II, it was used by American soldiers and their allies in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. It was also used in the Bosnian War. Production of the Thompson by the US Army officially ended in 1980. The Type 100 is a Japanese submachine gun. It was widely used by the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy during the Sino-Japanese War and World War II. The rifle is available in variants such as the Type 140 and Type 144, with versions produced in 1942 and 1944. It was first designed in 1939 by the famous Japanese weapons designer Kijiro Nambu. It was modeled after the MP-18 rifle in its original design. The outer coating of the rifle was chrome plated to make it suitable for the jungle conditions of Asia. After being used in the Japanese Empire's invasion of China in 1937, it became the classic machine gun of Japanese soldiers as it was a standard and useful rifle. In World War II, it was used in the same way, and new versions of the Type 100 were made. It was also used by Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean resistance fighters in the areas occupied by the Japanese during World War II. After Japan lost the war in 1945, production of the Type 100 was discontinued. Remnants of the Type 100 were also used in China and North Korea. The Type 11 is a Japanese submachine gun. The weapon was designed by Kijiro Nambu in 1935 and was used by the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. It was the first Japanese-made submachine gun and was named after the 11th anniversary of Emperor Taisho's reign at the time of its design. The Type 38 is a Japanese rifle. Invented in 1905, it was used by the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy until 1945. It was first used in the Russo-Japanese War. Because it was a quality rifle at the time of its manufacture, it was soon used throughout the Japanese Army in subsequent wars. Type 38 rifles were captured by Russian soldiers during the Russo-Japanese War. This rifle, which was also used in World War I, was also used in the Russian Civil War. Near the beginning of World War II, it was used in the Sino-Japanese War, which began with the Japanese invasion of China and later in World War II. With the end of the war in 1945, production of the Type 38 was officially discontinued. The Type 97 is a Japanese anti-tank rifle. The weapon was designed in 1937 and used by the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. Although it initially provided superiority against armored vehicles, it later proved inadequate against advanced tank armor. The Type 99 submachine gun was a submachine gun used by the Imperial Japanese Army in World War II. It was similar in design to the earlier Type 96 submachine gun, but was designed to fire the new and more powerful Arisaka cartridge, which increased energy by more than 50%. Other improvements included the removal of the lubrication mechanism, resulting in a better all-round weapon. The Type 99 never fully replaced the earlier Japanese submachine gun models and remained in service alongside the Type 11 and Type 96 until 1945. The Volkspistol was a Nazi German pistol designed as a matter of urgency toward the end of World War II. It was made with very little material, using simple steel parts, due to the economic power that Nazi Germany had lost in the war. Only prototypes of these pistols were produced before the end of World War II. These prototypes had an unusual locking system that pushed the combustible gas forward, preventing the barrel from moving until the bullet exited the gun. These pistols were produced by Mauserwerk and Oberndorf am Neckar, although some prototypes were produced by Walter Arms and Gustloff Werke. The use of these prototypes differs from the others. The VG-1. 5 is a semi-automatic rifle designed and put into production by Nazi Germany in 1944. It is a semi-automatic version of the Mauser 98K. It was designed by the Gustloff Volkssturmgewehr and used by the Volkssturm. Its design was inspired by the STG-44 produced in 1942, but the VG-1, 5, is cheaper to produce. The Walther PH-38 is a parabellum pistol developed by Walther for the German Wehrmacht at the beginning of World War II. It was designed to replace the costly Luger P-08, which was to be discontinued in 1942. It entered service with the German Army in 1940. It can be easily distinguished from its counterparts by its bare barrel shape. It was the first pistol to feature the double-action trigger system. In this system, the weapon does not explode unless the trigger is pulled, minimizing accidents caused by drops, impacts, and external factors. This is because the pulled trigger hits the hammer after bringing the needle close to the cartridge. It is still in service with its powerful firepower and ammunition capacity. World War II. Weapons takes us on a journey into the world of weapons used in World War II, shedding light on one of the most turbulent periods in history. These impressive weapons reveal not only the evolution of technology, but also the resilience and ingenuity of mankind. It is our hope that human endurance and ingenuity will never again be used for such a purpose. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Share your thoughts and ideas about the video in the comments section. You can also turn on notifications to get more content and be part of our community. See you in the next video.